time out, because we're doing the chorus, Kevin. Don't get too ahead of yourself.
10 feet. Yes, she wanted long. She wanted longer, like the anaconda.
Please tell me, Kevin, you have never done that before?
No, I've never done that before. We don't fill her with popcorn and Sprite. One come fly with like kite. No!
I think we're figuring out what your secret is to looking 25 all these years.
Mossy, no. You need to breathe.
This was like a fucking dream. I cannot believe that just happened. Welcome to Unshut, a place where if at any point you feel like you need to shut the up, don't.
And then let's see if the sunglasses work with this look. Oh, you can see me good?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, welcome to Unshut, Kevin Lyttle, which in my opinion, you are nowhere near little. You're not little at all.
Everybody says that.
I love that. What does your morning typically look like?
You know, I've changed up my lifestyle a lot. I'm kind of what you call a yogi. So I don't eat breakfast anymore. I eat like lunch, you know, so in the morning I don't eat. I drink teas. I drink a lot of, in the Caribbean, we say bush tea. Drink a lot of different type of herbs and stuff like that, you know, from moringa to turmeric and all these different types of herbs to give my body a chance to get rid of all the sugar out of it. So I get up, I do that, and then I get into my calendar to see what's happening for the day. Usually I have meetings with my companies. You know, I have a food delivery app, a delivery company called Vonzu, and I have a restaurant in St. Vincent. I have real estate as well that I own and managing as well. So there's quite a few things that I'm involved with, of course, with business partners as well. So, yeah.
How long have you been doing the food delivery app business?
I just started that like 2.5 years ago. It was actually a pet project. I just really needed something to motivate me more, you know, the way I was motivated when I first came out with my music, you know, because I was very young and at the time was like, yo, this is the thing that could make me money because I have such a great voice. So I just went at it and people love to hear me sing. So I made the best of it and really pushed. Nobody could tell me anything when it came to that. You couldn't stop me. So I found that, you know, I see Uber Eats and all these big companies, DoorDash and all that, doing this thing with these apps. And I love technology, but I can't code, you know, I'm into it. I understand it. I know a lot about it, all the fundamentals and how things work and all that, but I've never learned coding. So I had some development teams and started building. I finally got it building because, you know, developers are not easy to work with. You know, I finally got it built and working to a satisfactory minimum viable product and launched it back in 2020. This is what, 24? In 2022. 21, 22, I launched it. And it's had its up and downs, but I've been able to keep it running and, you know, stabilizing all the departments, getting the drivers department, financial department, marketing department, all this stuff. You know, so we're working with all these things, trying to make the company's foundation as strong as possible before we expand it to the other countries in the region.
I think that's so impressive. And I think that's the beauty of being in the performing arts is being able to use your talents and your gifts to give you just a little bit of a leg up of a push and then turn that into entrepreneurial, you know, skills. I think that's so impressive. When it comes to your restaurant, do you oversee the menu? Do you oversee like the day-to-day stuff that happens with the restaurant?
Well, my business partner, Dr. Jacqueline James Little, she's always with me with some of these businesses. With that business, she's a 50% partner. So there's certain things that she handles, certain things that I handle. There's a lot of heavy lifting going on with that business, believe it or not, you know, getting contractors in to bring in new equipment and or, you know, doing relaunches, dealing with the different parts of the government that need licenses and taxes and all this stuff, right? And then the part that you're talking about, the menu and stuff, that's her because I can't cook. I literally launched a series on my Facebook when I did have a Facebook before Facebook totally took down my page. I don't know. Until this day, I don't know why. But I did have on my Facebook page Kevin Can Cook and had different people from around the islands come and teach me a different dish and stuff like that. But she handles that part, menus, recipes, and also a lot of the logistics as well, along with myself.
Have you ever thought about taking that and turning it into a series for a network?
I would love to. I would love to do stuff like that. It's just, the way that the universe has taken me is this way right now. And it's really weird, sometimes you realize that you can't fight against the tide. You have to swim with the tide. And that's what I've been doing. But I would definitely love to do that if the tide takes me there. I'm not trying to overstretch myself in any way or get distracted with anything that is not there for me at the moment.
Well, hopefully in the future, maybe when things start to slow down a little bit more and there is time to squeeze that in, we'll see Kevin Lyttle Can't Cook series on Hulu or Netflix or whatever the network will be then.
Yeah.
I want to go back and talk about something. You were talking about the herbs, about the turmeric, which I'm a huge fan of turmeric. I have a spinal fracture that I've been dealing with for so many years, and that has helped with
Mhm.
inflammation. And so I love it.
Yeah.
Is that the reason you still look 25, Kevin?
I would say so, yeah, because I have in the past month I've already lost like 15 pounds. Just doing this type of yogi type life where I only do lunch and I do a very small dinner and make sure I do it before 7. Other than that, if I feel hungry, I drink liquids. Like I would drink almond milk, I would drink tea again in the night, but that's it. The thing is that you have to listen to your body. And there's symptoms that your body gives you when things are off. You may put on weight, you may have bloating, you may have headaches, you may find tingling in certain parts of your body. Your body tells you when things are wrong. So this is how I've been living my life right now, listening to my body and being cautious as to what I put in. Because at a certain point in your life, your metabolism slows. Your digestive system is eaten up by all the sugar that you've been eating and drinking in your puberty into your full adult life. So there comes a point now where your eating starts destroying your body. So you have to now figure out what is going to give your body a chance to fix itself. And that's what I've been doing, living like that, because I know that my body can no longer handle all the sugar, all the carbs, all the stuff. So I've just been resetting my mind, first of all, to make myself mentally prepared to be hungry, because being hungry is not a bad thing. When you're hungry, your body is actually fixing things. It's breaking things down, moving things out, moving out things it doesn't need and all of that. So I've gotten accustomed to being hungry. Yeah, but that to answer your question, that is a major part of it.
Well, I mean, listen, this is why they call you Kevin Big, because if it's not a series about cooking, maybe it'll be a health cookbook or something. I think that's so cool.
Right?
I love that. I know you were just recently in Amsterdam. Was that your
Yeah.
first time there?
Oh no, man. I've done Amsterdam millions of times now. Amsterdam was one of the first countries that made me an international star. Amsterdam loves Caribbean music. They're actually, to me, one of the most diverse countries I've ever been to, next to London, which is, I shouldn't say countries, cities that I've been to. London is super diverse, but Amsterdam is on a whole nother level with that too. They're a little bit more even than London. And when my music came out, they really got behind me. I mean, before Atlantic signed me, I was doing shows in Holland and selling out Melkweg in Amsterdam. So and it was such a diverse crowd that came out for me. So it's a place I've frequented a lot in terms of performing and just hanging out.
I love that. And that's why I wanted to ask you that, because I know that places like that have been so welcoming to you. Of course, the US, of course. But I wanted
Of
to
course,
ask
yeah.
you that because someone like you, who is a worldwide icon, right?
Yeah.
You are in almost every country that anyone can think of. How does
Mhm.
Kevin Lyttle decide what place he's never been to? Is there a place you haven't been to that's on your list?
You wouldn't believe there's quite a few. I mean, let's start with Brazil. I've never been to Brazil. Never
Really?
performed in Brazil. Never ever. And I've literally performed in Russia multiple times, but I've never performed in Brazil. I've performed in Colombia multiple times. I'm going along the list here. I've not been to some of these Maldives Islands and stuff like that. Some of those I've not gone to. I would love to go to. Thinking here, but the list is very small. At one point, I had never gone to Dominica. It was literally right before the pandemic, about 5 or 6 years before the pandemic, was the first time I went to the island of Dominica, which is one of our neighbors. I literally come through the airport. I've never performed there. The first time I performed there was like 2000 and I think 16 was the
Wow.
first time I performed there. And it was crazy. They brought me in for their carnival as the headline for the opening of their carnival, which was really cool. So, there are places, but some of the names aren't coming to me right now. But there are multiple places that I've not been. And when I say multiple, not a lot, like three or four.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, you're literally the OG of being a worldwide, like when it came to even just a different genre. I mean, it was so common for pop artists to get this, big, name and be out there worldwide, but you were truly one that was also pop, but you were soca music. Like you were just a true variety of an artist. And so I think
Yeah.
that's the coolest thing ever. I know that you recently posted a picture and the caption said, "Always good to be back in my neighborhood, connecting with old friends." Was it ever difficult to return back home after being so successful because people expected so much out of you?
Yeah, it was, because I come from very humble beginnings. My family were very poor. I mean, we had wealth, but we couldn't do nothing with it because we didn't have the capital, no cash. People can be wealthy and broke. And that's what it was. My mom and my grandmother and my great grandmother, we lived in a situation, this little board house and on about 3.5 acres of land. And we couldn't do anything because we didn't have even the financial education to understand how to sell some of it and work with that capital. But then my mom was not making enough money to pay back a loan even, and so, it's a learning curve that we have amongst our people as Black people, that the financial education isn't strong. So I was dealing with that coming up and not knowing I was dealing with that. And then when I got my success, and I became so popular, the thing that came with it was all the hate and the people who want to say, oh, you should be driving a Benz, you should be driving this, you should be spending your money here. Oh, I hear that you lost all your money because you sold your song and then you weren't representing your country, you don't talk about your country and all this kind of stuff. So it was difficult touching back down in my country. As they say, a king has no honor in his own land, right? And when I did come back and I really just showed people that, hey, it's still the same person, I went back on the block with my friends the same way. That gentleman in that picture is an old friend, an old family friend. He lives literally a few houses up from me. His mom and my grandmother were all close, and God bless their souls, they're all gone now. But him and myself, we're the few that are left. So it was good to see him, and he was going through something at the time, so I actually helped him. And it's good now to be able to go back to my country even more so, because the thing is, when I go back, they treat me the same as they knew me before, because I don't go back rolling up with an entourage or pulling up with a whole heap of, unnecessary puffiness, or, I go and I hang out with my friends, I talk with my cousins and whatever else, and go right back in the same place and sit down with them. And everybody still calls me by my nickname, Bam. It's like, so it's crazy, right? And it is what it is, but I try my best to just stay humble and just live, just be ordinary with people and not try to push whatever fame and success or money I have as the thing that's about me. My humility is what I'm about, man, my ability to give back to the place that I'm from, the community, the region of the world that I'm from.
Well, listen, you don't need any validation for me. I mean, I feel like you are doing one hell of an amazing job with that. And I think
Thank
your
you.
son, yeah, of course, you're welcome. And I
Yeah,
feel like your son is a perfect reflection of that. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, but I feel like
yeah.
you are truly leading by example. And I've often talked about this with other musicians who are parents. We don't realize that one of the biggest gifts that we can give our children, well, not our, I don't have any kids, but to be able to give the children is leading by example and
Mhm.
truly leaving an imprint. That is how you leave a legacy. Leaving houses, all of these things that are materialistic, they're just that, they're just materialistic, but that
Right.
imprint is far
Yeah.
more important. So I commend you for that. And you don't need my validation, but I
Yeah,
think you're
man.
doing a great job at
Thank you.
it. Of course.
It's all
Something
good, man. The saying goes, all you have is your friends. I'm sorry, don't mean to cut you off. I was just saying that all you have is the people who love you and the people who truly care about you. on that day, perish the thought right now, but on that day that we all have to face, it's you find out who really cared and who really like you. You don't really consciously know, but that's what it is. According to Denzel Washington, you never see a U-Haul following a hearse, right?
Oh,
Or
I love that.
right? Yeah. So hey, can't take it with you.
Absolutely. It's so awesome. I love the wisdom that comes behind that. And I think we're figuring out what your secret is to looking 25 all these years, because I think that it's between your hydration, between your lifestyle, and just that humility. Humility cannot be taught. It's truly something that comes within. And so I'm just completely blown away. So I think that's your secret to looking so young. Something I wanted to do with you is I wanted to go down a lyric deep dive. I broke down some of your
Hmm.
lyrics from some of your music, and
Hmm.
I want to ask you some questions about that. The first one I have is obviously we could not do anything without talking about Turn Me On. And just so you know, we aren't very traditional here. We really do break things down a little bit differently than most
Hmm.
people.
Okay.
You'll kind of get to see why some questions are a little, different, but just go along with it with me, okay? In your lyrics of Turn Me On, there is a line that talks about popcorn and Sprite.
Right.
What what is this? I listen, I am 35 years old and I have
Uh,
always had this curiosity, but I did not want to look it up. I didn't want to research it. So I've got to ask you, I want to hear it from Kevin Lyttle himself. What is popcorn and Sprite in reference to in this song?
it's in reference to taking a girl to the movies.
I
So
love
it's like,
it.
so it's like really what he's saying, right? If I put it in proper English, it would be, well, a girl is not gonna get away from me tonight. I'm done feeding her with popcorn and Sprite, and now she wants to come and fly away like a kite. You understand? So he don't spend his money, take her to the movie, buy her popcorn and Sprite, and now she wants to fly away like a kite. So it goes, well, a girl not gonna get to it tonight. If she thinks a bad man a go fight, we don't fill her with popcorn and Sprite. One come fly away like kite. No, you understand? So and then the bad man and fight is something that is like a kind of play on words that we do in the Caribbean, bad man for who, like that is a kind of thing that is in our culture and the way that we talk and describe ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Man, a bad man, you can't test me. So if you think say bad man, I go fight. Me don't fill her with popcorn and Sprite. You want to come fly with like, no, you want to come fly with like kite.
So awesome. So, so awesome. And
Yeah,
I love hearing this from you directly because I know that is
yeah.
something that a lot of people have wondered and have asked. I actually came across a lot of blogs that were in
Mm-hmm.
debate about what Kevin Lyttle meant with this lyric. And
Right.
so I think it's the coolest thing to hear from you. But this also
Mm-hmm.
sparked a random question from me to you. It's a Southern thing. And I just recently found this out thanks to TikTok. Like most of us
Mm-hmm.
find out a lot of things from TikTok now. Have you ever heard of peanuts inside of Coca-Cola?
No, I think I may have eaten peanuts and drank a Coca-Cola, but not putting the peanut down in the Coca-Cola. I think that's salt inside of carbonation that should cause some sort of, right?
Yes. So,
Yeah.
so listen, I know you're a health nut now. I know you like your herbs and tea, but if you ever feel like being a little naughty with your diet, try it. Put some peanuts. It will not explode, I promise. It's like the most random mix ever, but it's so fucking good. And so if you ever want to try it, give it a shot. But if you do and you hate it, just pretend I'm not the one that told you about it, okay?
So peanuts inside of Coca-Cola.
Yes.
You see, the problem is I'm not drinking those kind of carbonated drinks because of the high fructose corn syrup. That's one of the secrets to this whole thing, like that all that sugar is really tough, man. Like about 60, 70 grams of sugar in one of those things. So
Yeah.
I realize it. And sometimes when I drink that stuff, I have tinnitus. You drink that stuff, my ear starts ringing even more. So I just, but one of these days when I feel really, really clean and good, I'll try
Okay,
it.
perfect. In this song, you also talked about Got My Python hollering for mercy. And I
Yeah,
want you to keep in mind, okay, Kevin, we're not traditional here. We do things very differently. I think it's the reason
right.
why I am organically growing these streams on Spotify. And I'm very
Yeah.
blessed and very happy with that. But this is the reason why. So I'm going to put you on the spot. and I'm going to go first, but we're going to be a python that's hollering for mercy. So you're going to give me the most random beat and a hiss that you can think of. And I'll go first to be an example. Are you ready?
Yeah, let me hear you. That's funny. What are you talking about? Let me see. Let me see what your example is.
All right. So my example is, and keep in mind, I'm not a musician. I don't do anything with music, so don't hang up on me, okay? My example is, so that's my python hollering for mercy. What's yours?
My Python is out of breath. Mossing out. You need to breathe. That is exactly what is happening in terms of the way the song is describing it, you know? When you talk, it can't get no air.
Yes, I love it so much. And please tell me, Kevin, you have never done that before.
No, I've never done that before. I've never even had that question, anything like that asked to me before. You know, that line is talking about the man's genitalia being squeezed by the woman, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know how we dance in the Caribbean, the bump and grind. The woman started to put back that bump up on you, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, I didn't want to say dicky or penis. You have to say something cool. And back in that day, Fireman, which is the reigning soca monarch, well, I don't think he's reigning right now. I can't remember. Don't quote me on that. But Fireman, who has won multiple soca monarch competitions in St. Vincent every year for the carnival. His first win, was it his first win? Yeah, he had his second win. He had a song called Anaconda, and I was also doing back vocals for him. So I remember that Anaconda thing. Long, long, long. She wanted longer, like the Anaconda, right? So you know what he talking about? He said 5 feet, no. 6 feet, no. 7 feet, no. 10 feet, yes. She wanted long, long, long. She wanted longer like the anaconda, right? So I decided in my song I would use a snake, but I can't use anaconda because he don't use it. So I went with python. So my python, hollering for mercy, yeah. That's how that came about.
Genius. And thank you so much for being validating to me that it's something you've never been asked before, because that is something I really do take pride in doing
Yeah.
these interviews. I always let management or publicists know there are questions that they have not been asked, specifically artists like you who you've been in this for so many years. It's so important to keep things kind of fresh. So thank you. That meant a lot to me.
Yeah, man, no problem.
One of your songs called Drive Me Crazy, the lyric says, got caught by her magic. Can you remember the moment you knew you were in love with your wife?
That was a long time ago, man. I mean, like, I think it was when I saw her again. I've always been in love with her, you know, since I was a kid. We were going to school together, and she was in the girls' high school, and I was in the boys' grammar school, and the schools were brother and sister school. So we were right, the buildings are right next to each other. So I always admired her because she was sophisticated and beautiful and very staunch, very, you know, she always have a bitchy resting face. But when you talk to her, she's very nice, very pleasant, very respectful, and she's a very fair person. You know, she was the kind of friend that all the girls who were like Mr. So and so daughter and ministers' daughters and important people's daughters were all friends with, you know, because she just had that type of leadership personality. So, you know, when I met her and started talking to her, hanging with her, I immediately fell in love with her. I always just like, you know, I would follow her from school every chance that I would get. And I could never muster the words to ask her out or anything like that because I didn't feel like I was in the running because there was athletes, jocks and stuff and she was a star athlete as well, you know. So I was brave in the sense that I would talk to her and walk her up and, you know, things like that. But I never really did it the right way. But from then I was always smitten by her, you know, and that was back in school.
Well, I think the way you smiled as soon as I finished my question, I think that answered the question. I think you hit it spot on with you've always known, you've always been in love. And I admire you so much for that because specifically with the roles that society has put on men and the roles that women should play, it's so refreshing to hear a man talk about the empowerment of a woman being
Mm.
what they find attractive. I love that so much. So thank you for for sharing
Yeah,
that
man.
with me.
You're welcome.
In regards to now your son, you guys
Hmm.
now have a son. Who do you
Yeah.
think he takes on after the most? Does he take on after you or her?
I think it's a mixture of both. I think that you will find with children, there's always the mixture of both parents that give that child their personality. Whether it be in their anger, in their frustration, their happy times, their good times, you will see different aspects of the parents come out in the child. And then whether they have good talent or good athletic ability or something, it is always built on that foundation of the genes of both parents. So I think you will see both of them in my youngest son, which I think is the one you're talking about. I do have an older son with a mom from before as well, too. Yeah.
That is so amazing. And yes, I was referring to the fact that it almost seemed like your youngest son had been taking from both mom and dad in this sense of being this entrepreneur, but also
Yes,
going back to
very much
talk.
so.
But also talking about the humility we were talking about earlier on today, which
Hmm.
had everything to do with him inspiring the whole Little Feet nonprofit. I think that
Yeah.
was such a beautiful story to hear. So I think he has the coolest parents in the world.
Yeah, man. He's doing so good. He's also an athlete, a very successful athlete right now. He is at his age group, I think the fastest for boys in the state of Florida. In his age group, he's 14 years old. He's about to be 15 later this year. But he just won a whole heap of trophies yesterday for playing football in school. And then this month he has won all of the meets that he's ran, basically 200 and 100 meter, strictly gold medals. So, he's doing very well. I mean, and that talent in terms of running comes from his mom, and everything else, from both of us, just in general. Yeah, so I can't be prouder as a father.
Absolutely. Do both your sons acknowledge the fact that you're a musician? What do they think about your music?
I have never really asked them. They love my music, of course, but they all want to do their own thing, and the thing is, I don't force my career and what I do on them. My relationship with them is really forcing them to be as entrepreneurial as possible, which you did mention. My youngest, he is very much a leader, which he gets from his mom. He literally does his own little hustles and buys his own shoes, buys his own clothes when he's ready. If he wants something, he figures out how to get the money. And if he buys it, he figures out how he's going to pay back for it if he uses our money. Like he's very, the oldest one, he is also an athlete in school, very good at American football as well. Very good looking kid. He's taller than me, actually. He's like 6'1".
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, what you gonna do? I just encourage them to make sure that they look to make their own way and not depend on me or any other parent of theirs in any way, except for the guidance and the help when it's absolutely necessary and on the things that are needed, but I really push that entrepreneurial spirit to them.
Such a huge blessing. I know we
Hmm.
talked about this earlier today where I mentioned your last name being Little, but on
Hmm.
today's podcast, you're going to be Kevin Big. So I'm going to
Hmm.
ask you some big questions. Are you ready?
Yeah, man.
All right, so Kevin Big Pockets, can you recall the first time you felt like, all right, I've never seen this much money before? And I'll share mine with you. I also came from very humble beginnings. I was born in Guatemala. I was an immigrant in the US. I own a performing arts company in Las Vegas. I also own multiple businesses, and
Hmm.
it's allowed me to do have the freedom to be able to pursue something like a podcast now that I'm a retired choreographer. And for me, I've never felt like a big fucking baller until I went to the
Hmm.
dentist and said, just do whatever you've got to do. There's no budget. I've never felt so rich in my fucking life until I did that. So, for someone like you, Kevin, big pockets, what was the moment where you felt like, oh shit, I'm doing pretty good?
I think I think when I was able to help my mom rebuild that little boathouse into what it is today, it is now a 5 apartment building, right? The thing is that my mom finally figured out how to sell some of the land, and I was like, I got so much money right now, I'm gonna just give you, the rest to build this big house. And I gave her the master bedroom, and I just kept flying in and out and took a small bedroom for myself. And that was it. I felt great, because to be able to have enough money to actually give back to your parents is a really, really spectacular feeling. I think that would have been my Kevin Big Pockets moment. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you think about but the other angle of your question, where it is where the first time I've seen a lot of money was when I was employed as a customs officer, because they start you out doing cash, where you're cashing and taking all the money from the customers who are importing and exporting stuff. And the first time I come to the $100,000 was then. And then come to
Wow.
the $1 million was then. So I mean, thing is that there was moments where I saw it when I actually saw it for the first time. But for me having it was that moment with my mom.
That is so special. And I love that you shared that
Yeah.
with us today. Thank you so much for that. When it comes to your age, Kevin
Hmm.
Big 50, I know you're not 50 and I know you're not close to there, but soon you're going to hit the big 50. Will the
Yeah.
big 50 be a big deal for you or just another number?
I think it would be a big deal. I intend to look better than I looked when I was 20 at 50. So, as you can see, I'm working towards that, because I think that, when you reach certain parts of your life, it is time now to reverse things because it's possible, to go back and start, right? It's cleanup time. It's time to stabilize now, you know what I mean? All the hard work and running around and mindless treatment of yourself to get whatever you needed to get needs to stop now. So that number, I'm tapering down to that right there. When I get to that, I need to be able to be content of mind and able to just course now with everything, So, yeah, different chapter. So I'm very excited, and I have a certain goals for the next 3 years, which I have before then. So, you know what I mean?
Oh, I mean, listen, I mean, sure, so many people are just going to be like, I would celebrate 52 if I looked like that. So that is awesome. We're going to talk about Kevin Big Problems. When
Mm.
it comes to both your sons, is there something they both do that reminds you of you that drives you crazy?
Uh, huh. Let me think. I can be very selfish because I'm an only child. And sometimes I get that from my youngest because he sees me, he's grown up with me more than my older son. And I can be very recluse. Like when I come from working from shows and all of that, I get to my room and I put on the TV and I get on my devices and I just chillax. I love to just be. And I think that sometimes it rubs off on my son a lot because he does it. He comes, he locks himself up in his room, and that's it. He's either on his phone, he's watching something, he's just chilling, and if he's not chilling, doing just chilling, he's chilling, figuring out how to make money. And I'm the same way too, and that similarity is there, and it kind of rubs people the wrong way because sometimes people are at my home and it's like, Kevin, why aren't you coming out and why aren't you being social? So it comes across sometimes as antisocial, and I try my best to change that. But people have certain things about them that they will always struggle with. Although we do change from time to time throughout our lifetime, there's still certain standard things about your personality that remains that you have to literally think and say, okay, I'm not gonna do this. Let me just try to be this. You know what I'm saying?
I love that too, because like I mentioned before, I'm not a parent, but I've always thought it was so cool to see parents who their kids are a reflection of them. And it's almost
Mm-hmm.
kind of like a humbling moment because you're able to see those traits in them. So it's kind of like, not your karma, but it's a reflection of you. But that can also be a
Right.
very teachable moment for parents. And so I think it's awesome that you're very observant and you see that. I love that a lot. Something you recently talked about, and not just very recently, but something I discovered. This was a brand new discovery for me as someone who has followed your musical journey for so many years. It was that
Mm-hmm.
you were a radio host before you went into music. I had no idea. So that was a fun fact for me. Do you ever look back at that and think that was almost like a prediction to where you were going with music? I mean, it doesn't get any closer to that.
Well, the thing is, I was always in music even before that. I actually ended up, funny story, being in that because I was looking for a job. I just came out of college and I had nothing to do. My mom was trying to find me jobs. She was the one who actually got me the stable job at the customs. But, I was a handyman at one point, and then the guy told me he wanted me to mow his lawn and do a bunch of odd jobs that I was not gonna be doing because of just the way that I was being spoken to. Because I had certain level of qualifications, you know. I was a storeroom manager in a supermarket, but it turns out I wasn't managing anybody. I was just the man to lift up all the heavy sacks of sugar and flour and take them up to the weighing room. So I wasn't really managing anybody or anything. So I quit that job really quickly. You know, so I finally spoke to a friend of mine who was a queen contestant and won and competed in, I think it's Miss Universe to represent our country as well. And she was a really cool friend and saw me in the arts for a long time. Her name is Nicole Hathaway. And she was in radio. She was like, Kevin, you know, you should try working on the radio. You could come in and work on my show. You know, so I was like, okay, why not? Because I was just trying anything right now to make some money and be contributing to my household. Because all I'm doing every day is just singing. I'm just singing. You see Kevin, you talk to him, he sings in between when you're talking. Like I just sang every minute, right? But and that's what I wanted to do. But I knew that I needed to keep money in my pocket at the same time. And if I really wanted to record something, I needed to have some money to pay people. So, and help my mother at the time too, who was under a lot of pressure in any case. So I took the job, I did it, didn't really like it because, you know, when you're working for people, how it is, you have to go through their so-called initiation phases. You know, you get treated a certain way when you're new. You don't, and people don't give you advice when you're new. They want you to figure everything out on your own because everybody feels threatened with their job. And it just is like, yo, I just wasn't feeling it. I never really wanted to work for anybody. I always said I wanted to own my own businesses. And then luckily, after I quit that job, my mom came and said that she would speak to somebody she know and see if I could get a job at the customs because I did have my degrees and, you know, whatever degrees I got from school in college and everything, associate degrees in electronic engineering. I got that from the technical college. So they quickly gave me that job opportunity. So I took it, ran with it. But then I kept singing. So that's what got me here.
Well, and it's funny too, because even in some of the questions I've asked you, you just randomly started singing too. So it's like you were still
Yeah.
that authentic Kevin Lyttle. I love that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, thank you.
Well, since we're on the topic of singing, we're going to do something to wrap this up, okay? In honor of Turn Me On being about 21 years old this year.
Mm-hmm,
Like, that's
mm-hmm.
crazy to even say out loud, right? We're going to do what every 21-year-old wants to do. We're going to be a little rebellious and we're going to do it the opposite. So instead of you singing, Kevin, I'm going to sing you my version of Turn Me Off, but I'm going to have you. But where I'm going to need your help is whenever it comes to the turn me on part of the song, you're going to sing turn me off, turn me off. So you're going to sing
Okay, let's
turn
go.
me off, okay?
Let's go. Let's see what you
And,
got.
and by the way, I just, like I mentioned before, I'm not a singer, not a musician. So we're not
I
here
hit the high notes in the beginning too. So you got to, instead of saying, oh yeah, you got to say, oh no. You ready? Let's go.
Well, hold on. Time out, because we're doing the chorus, Kevin. Don't get too ahead of yourself. I Kevin, if I were to try to sing that note in the beginning of that song, you wouldn't want to do this interview with me. So Alrighty,
All
are
right, man.
you
I'm gonna go with what you want to do. Let's go.
I'm dying and I still can't believe I'm doing this, but are you ready?
Yeah, man.
So here's the chorus to Turn Me Off. You chime in on the turn me off part, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let me push you, girl, get off my body. You got me kind of crazy, you.
Turn me off. Turn me off.
Let me show you to the door, it's over. You cannot come over, you.
Turn me off. Turn me off. Oh, you're
This
funny.
this was like a fucking dream. I cannot believe that just happened. Kevin, that was so awesome.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me on your show, man. Really appreciate it. All
No,
right.
thank you. Thank you for giving me your time. Time is the most valuable thing we have. And I know you juggle so much. And so literally this couldn't have gone any better. And I also want this to be an example to all other guests. It's not just about the host either. It's what you bring to the table. And the guest is so important. And Kevin, you are such a fucking vibe. Like so much fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Amazing. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll
All
definitely
right.
be in touch and let you know when we're announcing when it's airing and all that good stuff, okay?
All right. Awesome. Let my team know and I'll definitely check it out. All right. Thank you.
You
Have a
got it,
great day.
Kevin. You too.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, if you've made it this far, don't forget to follow the socials on the screen or in the description below. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel. See you next week.